Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here today. We're joined by a special guest today. It's me, the host. I don't think I've really ever introduced myself on this platform formally, but yes, I'm Andre Robinson. I'm joined today with my co host, FLW, and we have a special guest on here today, my good friend Shaan. Um, quick. Hold on, I'm gonna allow Sean to kind of introduce himself. I've known him from Georgia State, and he's a DJ. Recent husband. I went to his last wedding, and he's the one who actually sold me the house that I'm in right now. So he's a
Yeah.
man of many trades. So I'll just let him give a quick introduction. Um, we'll have FLW introduce himself again, just so everyone is acquainted, and then we'll get into today's discussion. So, Sean.
Cool. Yeah. I'm Sean. I am born and raised in Atlanta. I met Jay, I want to say my
Yeah.
freshman year at Georgia State. And we just kind of connected probably through music ever since then. I was a DJ for a long time. And, we just been very close, lifelong friends since then. And I'm also a realtor, so I forget about that part
Yeah.
sometimes. But but also in the real estate business. But yeah, that's me.
Yep.
Yeah, as Dre said, I'm FLW, and I'm really grateful to be with these brothers tonight. I'm a entrepreneur and coach, and I've done quite a few different things over the course of the years. But I'm just excited about getting this on and popping tonight.
So
Okay. So, for those who don't know, last episode we had a discussion talking about the death of Rich Homie Quan and the trial that Young Thug is currently facing. So we were just kind of relating um, the type of music that they were making and the lifestyle that they were living and kind of the results that came of it. So it's very cliche that one is dead and one is in jail, and that's what we're kind of here to expound upon. Um, over after our last episode, FLW wanted us to kind of think of music that would kind of steer us in a better direction, just or music with more positive messaging. And so that's actually the reason I reached out to Sean, and then he had told, because I really hit him up asking him what his thoughts were on the new Future album, Mixtape Pluto, and then that's
yeah,
when he had informed me. He was like, "Yeah, I don't even listen to hip hop like that anymore." And because he's a very cold DJ, like he's one of the best DJs too. So
appreciate that.
so for him to come to that conclusion, I was like, wow, that's perfect timing, because he was like, yo, let's find a guest to bring on and have this discussion with. And I'm like, just in terms of someone who knows the culture, like on Sean know the culture just as well as I do. So it's like we be having talks all the time. We've been needing to do this for a long time. Sean, if you could just start by last time I had Frank talk about his introduction to like Rich Homie Quan, and I was kind of telling him about just kind of how important that was at especially at Georgia State at that time. So you could just kind of give your background on your relationship to the music of Rich Homie and Young Thug.
Yeah, for sure. I remember a time in college where because when we were in college, that's when he had like his peak, maybe my sophomore year, like 2014 time or something. But I remember people start calling me Rich Homie Sean. So he
All
had
right.
like, this speaks to the impact of him. And I was so like passionate about Atlanta music. So I remember Rich Homie Quan coming up, listening to like a couple of his early songs and those mixtapes. I think it was uh I'll never
I
stop
stopped
going
going in.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had
series.
Yeah, that series. And so I was like, man, he's fire. I loved his sound. I think differences. It kind of aligned right when I started DJing. So he was one of the people. He was highly requested. He was one of the biggest songs. Um, he had a lot of biggest songs in the club, and I always just wanted to like support them. I remember even with the Young Thug, I think y'all touched on it on the last episode. Like when he first came out, people were kind of like, I think you said it, Dre. He changed how like gangsters and thugs are like looked at because he would like he has the art cover with the dress, but he's like in one of his songs, he's like, I wore that because I had a tech under that. I had a whole strap under,
Yeah.
and he kind of blurred the lines with that. But I remember defending him. People would try to say he was gay. I'm like, no, he's doing that for attention. Like he's trolling y'all. Like, I know he had the little back and forth with Wayne for some time. So I just early college days, I remember them bubbling hot. They had a lot of mixtapes. And that was kind of like my first introduction to both of them.
Yeah, they the way that it took over Georgia State campus, like I'm telling you, it didn't matter. You was hearing
Huge,
lifestyle at some point during your day, like that. Going to
huge.
Plaza, people who been to Georgia, the old Georgia State when they had Plaza, they don't have it no
Mhm.
more. But
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
like it was like a little group, like a little break time between class periods. Like people right would meet right in front of the library. Like to be
Mhm.
not to get too distracted, but that was really like I feel like when people look back, that's gonna be one of the cornerstones of like hip hop. Like the way that you were at the early parties in New York, that it felt like New York because everyone would just come. DJs sometimes
For
Shaan would
sure,
DJ there.
for
Another
sure.
DJ Mark B, John J, whole bunch of legendary
Mhm.
Atlanta DJs was all over
Facts.
there. So it's gonna be a big part of the story in the future for sure. Um,
Agreed.
so let's just let's take it to first let's say what are you currently listening to now, Sean? Since you kind of steered away from hip hop, let's take it to that point.
Yeah, man. That's been a big that's been a big adjustment for me. I remember like kind of when I first had my conviction of like I'm just not feeling this anymore. It's like, man, music is part of my life. It's not even like something that I just liked as a hobby. It was like when DJing, that's income for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do that on the side. It was great bread, and it's literally something I've just been passionate about. So I'm like, dang, how do I just walk away from this? But I started to listen to like Christian rap, I guess is the name, Christian rap, Christian hip hop or whatever,
Mm.
and Christian music in general. So I literally this was the first time too again because I was a DJ, so I've been my own catalog. Like I always knew the music, and I realized a lot of people relied on playlists and stuff, which is why we just also was so helpful too. Like you could just go in there, find a bunch of different songs or whatnot. But I always knew the songs, and so now with me joining into this kind of new category and genre of music, I was like, I don't even know where to start.
Mm.
So I've literally just been downloading tons and tons of like Christian playlists, and that's what I've been listening to. And I remember as a kid or growing up, Christian rap, even how I used to look at it, was like, bro, like that's corny. Like they're gonna try to say something cool. Be like, oh, like it's like it just, and you would hear certain songs, you just feel like I can't get with that.
Mm.
But and they promote it this way, like a lot of the music that they're pushing out in that genre, they're like, man, Christian rap has evolved. So it's kind of something you could tell people knew the stigma around it, but I tell a lot of people if I played a song, you might not if you're kind of just letting it play in the background, it's so hard you might not even realize. Like if I tell you it's a Christian rap song, you might be like, whoa, what?
Mm.
And you go back and listen to the lyrics, and you're like, oh, okay, I hear. But they blended it. They found a perfect blend, really, with the sound and just that whole wave. So a lot of Christian rap and gospel stuff. But that's mainly what I'm listening to these days.
So let me chime in because one of the things that brought Dre and I together was this idea that he wanted to do his part to impact the culture. And of course, what you don't know is that I was a part of that group that participated in the street parties, the early street parties in the Bronx, where I'm from. Cool Herc, and of course, if you as a DJ, you that name, you should know who
Oh
that
yeah,
is, right? And
pioneer right
so,
there.
I mean, I was fortunate to have Cool Herc at my table. So, I I have seen rap evolve, and Dre and I have had many conversations, and I listen to their songs that I like that Lotto put out. In fact, I've been listening to what we call gospel rap for a minute now. Canton Jones is considered one of the ambassadors of what he calls holy hip hop. And one of the things that I've noticed is people like Kirk Franklin has been able to partner with Lil Baby. And in fact, one of my favorite Lil Baby songs he did with Kirk Franklin.
Hmm.
But here's my question. I just wanted to give you a little bit of that background. What what was it? Because you've been listening to music you've listened to a lot of music as a DJ.
Hmm.
So what was it that was the tipping point for you? Because I know that every now and then there has to be a secular song that you can mess with, right?
For sure.
But what was it? What was the tipping point? Because clearly we've been, as Dre and I discussed, we've been kind of going this way for a
Hmm.
minute now. So what was the tipping point for you?
Yeah, so it's crazy because it seems like everything big in my life happened in college, or like these pivotal moments. The very first time where I started to even have a second second thought about hip hop was in college. I just had been in my Bible, really reading scripture, and it was the first time I was like, whoa. Like everything in this book seems to be direct, like it's saying do the opposite of almost everything I'm listening to, the culture and I remember hearing that, and it made for it was probably a couple weeks where I was just like, mm, that's weird. Like I felt a little weird listening to those songs. I'm like, how do you get through this? And I remember just kind of showing it off, like whatever. And I got back into hip hop, and it was years later. I would probably say just before my wedding, or before I got married. So this would be late 2023. Um, we were in premarital counseling, just getting ready for the wedding and marriage, and the counselor was a minister, and I remember him just saying, "You don't want to go into a marriage not equally yoked." And he was asking, "He's like, do you go to church? It's like, do you believe in God?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, all of this." And I remember just thinking like that just resonated with me so much. And so that sparked me to get back into reading the scripture, whatnot. And it just grew from there to the point where I had a conviction that I couldn't even ignore anymore. All the way to like to this day, like now, currently, I don't DJ anymore because I physically couldn't do it. I couldn't keep reading what I was reading and seeing what I was seeing, believing what I believe, and then go to a club and be in that environment and listen to the music. And wrapping it up, one of the things that I used to um, have a hard time dealing with is like the people who were kind of reinforcing these messages, but with on the side, like whether they're Muslim or whatever their faith is, they would pray over here, but then in the song is shoot them, kill him, I'm having sex with this girl, and it was like how like I don't see how that can intersect. Um, and I was like, well, what about you, Shaan? Like, there you can look at the artist and say, oh, they're reinforcing all of this, but also, you know, saying they have this faith and they believe in. But it's like you're also playing you're also a part of the cycle. Like you're the DJ who's playing it and keeping it in rotation. And it was just a true conviction for me. So it was indirectly, it was more so came through my faith and just reading scripture or whatnot, which started the conviction. But the conviction just got too big to where I was like, yeah, I just can't do it anymore.
That's such a real story, man. To be transparent, I mean, I've faced similar issues with creating We the Sauce because I also understand the messages, but that's kind of why I try not to filter it out. I want to kind of give everybody the opportunity to see the good, the bad, the ugly, like not mask it up and, you know, it's like you have to see it all together in order to kind of understand the whole narrative. So,
Yeah.
you know, and there's different, and I think once people kind of can see it all together instead of seeing it isolated, because what they do is they just highly promote the
Hide it.
provocative one, the provocative music, and you know the highly
Yep.
sexualized music, and it's all for because it all goes into marketing because it's like we need this music to push this agenda, and I guess we can really bring it into this Diddy situation because when we look at this Bad Boy in general, from the beginning, Bad Boy, everything that kind of they represent, and I always when I talked about Diddy's last album, the Love album, and just kind of what I felt the vibes from that album were, it was like very. That was like as soon as I heard it, I'm like, okay, I see the direction that he's going, but that's what I kind of want to bring awareness to for people who are just kind of lackadaisically listening to the music, or when it's kind of just entering your subconscious and you're not conscious of what you're feeding yourself, then that's when it
Facts.
really has the ability to take over you and you know has the ability to kind of lead you into a lifestyle that you didn't even expect because of the
Yep.
vibrations that it's giving off. And so yeah, not to because I didn't want to get too much into Diddy, but we can get back into kind of talking about Young Thug because I feel like Young Thug is also in that realm of someone who's always been pushing the boundaries, and I kind of want to talk about why people gravitate to that music and you know kind of what makes it so appealing to people. So, what were some of prior to you changing um, or changing your conviction? What were some of your favorite Young Thug songs or songs that kind of stood out to you? Because there a lot of people like him for different things. So I'm a fan of him for his melodies and his kind of creativeness. But what were some
Yeah.
of the highlights for you with Young Thug?
Man, I'll go all the way back early. Like he had mixtapes. He had a song with I think Gucci Man called Shooting Star. Um, and but I have a ton of favorite Young Thugs. I love obviously Ski, Lifestyle was on there. Check back in those days. He had a crazy run, and like it wasn't even like he necessarily fell off before he was rested. Like he was still top dog. But I would like for Thug, I enjoyed he was different, and he seemed to be unapologetically himself, and wasn't scared to push the boundaries. So it was like he was the first person I heard just rapping, and then next thing you know is like in the middle of the voice, and how he just wasn't scared to play around and find different sounds or whatnot. So sonically, I always enjoyed. Those were the reasons I enjoy him.
Right. And that's actually so sonically it is the part that is the aspect that I do want to hone in on, because a lot of times when he was coming out, people didn't understand exactly what he was saying. So it was kind of just more of how he was making. You weren't nobody's really thinking about the lyrics of music. See, I came from being someone who was like very heavily into lyrics. So my
Right.
personal favorite artist I've said on here has been Ab Soul, who's like a very intricate lyricist. And what I liked about what Ab Soul would do with music was he would kind of put information in there in a way that's so, or at least kind of give you tricks as a listener to kind of understand the whole picture. Um, that was kind of part of his artistry. But then I started to realize Thug did the same thing. Thug is very artistic in the way, and at first you kind of think that it's a lot of people were thinking that he was just slow, mentally slow, or just couldn't really rap in the cadence that people wanted him to rap in, and they had that whole era of mumble rap, but what they were doing with their voices was the musical part of it. So it was like Thug was more of a musician than a rapper per se, and he was kind of just using his voice as an instrument, similar to kind of like what Kanye does. So, and that's where Kanye was. I think my all time is probably like Kanye 50, then Ab-Soul for me, like just in terms of rappers. But I think the way that even I think Kanye was someone who challenged the idea of what you could talk about. So he was still on a lyrical. He pushed the boundaries on a lyrical note by when he did drop Jesus Walks and just different songs that were talking about different things. There was a clip of him sitting with Diddy and then them talking about how he wanted to like make music about him playing with his daughter and stuff, and then Diddy was like, nah, but that's not the vibe that we was going for. So it would have been a good clip here. If I find a clip, I'll try and put it in the description. But so let's Frank, who was a rapper that you, or an artist that you feel that you like set sonically, but may not but you may not align with their what the subject
Message.
matter of the message or subject matter of their music.
Well, as I mentioned in the last show, as far as Atlanta rap, for me, Flex will always be in the top, amongst the top songs, because that song, even though what he was talking about in that song, was pretty crazy, but what the sound and one of the things that I talked about the last time that I thought made Rich Homie Quan unique is that he seemed to always be having fun. And whereas some rappers, they wanted to give off this persona of being a gangster and being super hard, which, as I said the last show, most of them are not really not. Um, Rich Homie always gave the impression that he just was about the good time, and so that was one of the things that made him attractive as a rapper. Now, I need to also plug this in because for me, I always felt like at some point once a rapper, went through his gyrations, and we're starting to see that with 50, and then even with R&B and rock artists like uh, my friend Swedish, she was saying that she got the opportunity to go to a Prince concert, and back in Prince's early days, it was no telling what he would do in his show. But by the time she went to see him, Prince was, his show was sanitized. And at that time, she was disappointed by that. And so, with a lot of these artists, as they grow and mature, and that's one of the great things about, and this isn't new with hip hop, because we even saw this with rock and rollers. When you grow up with a person, you grow up with a person, and hopefully over time their music evolves with them, and the stuff that they were saying when they were 19, as a 34-year-old, you would expect the music to evolve. So that's one of the things too that excites me about the possibility with a lot of these artists, if the industry would just let them, which that's a whole nother story, which we're in and out of in our conversation, Dre. The industry, the position that the industry, like with Young Dolph, they would it, they, his murder is on trial now, and why they killed him. A rival record company is what they're saying was the cause of his death, and so you know, so much of what we have a problem with has a lot to do with the industry itself, and not necessarily what the artist would do if they were allowed to do. So
That's right on point.
That's So what do we feel like is? Do we feel like we only want these things because it's being marketed to us, or do you feel that people just like to live vicariously through these artists? Because I feel like growing up, like I'll use I forgot who I was talking about this with, but one when Little Wayne was when we were young, when we was probably in like early high school, when Wayne was like at the top of his game, he had gotten two women pregnant at the same time. I think he had gotten I
Is
forgot
it
the
Lauren London?
Lauren London after she was in ATL and she was like the number one girl, and then
Yeah,
Nivea, I believe, was that there?
that might be it. Yeah, yeah.
So, and then we fast forward to today where we have NBA YoungBoy has 12 kids, and but it's like those were some of our role models as we were growing up, and so now you kind of see the state where relationships are in these days, and it's like you know I feel like with that being so many people's blueprint for like a lot of young men who didn't want to necessarily, because I think that kind of broke a mold in a lot of people's mind that, oh, you have to, because he wasn't married, he wasn't and I think this is kind of what we were talking about with the Drake situation, when we were saying that as he's getting older, he's not finding anyone to settle down, but he's at one of the prime spots in entertainment, and so without him, him not going the Jay-Z route and finding a Beyonce, or Kendrick and finding his Whitney or whatever. So I feel like when we have these artists and then they're kind of their lifestyle, like Drake's lifestyle is not conducive to what a married man would want to, their life, to try and mimic their lifestyle off of, because one, it's financially almost impossible, and two, it's just like that's not a realistic, to, in the way that I think it's almost made the idea of a woman disposable to a degree, and especially when you're in a city like Atlanta where there's such a high supply of like high quality, highly educated, highly beautiful women. all around. Like you can step outside, it makes it very difficult, and everybody wants to be the best. So it's like now you add social media onto that. Now it's just the bar is forever raising. Like you're never gonna find the perfect girl or a girl who nobody else has been with, and just these other things that we've kind of superficially put into our heads. So
Yeah.
Shaan, I know you're in Sean has been in his relationship since early college. I forgot exactly when you guys got together, but
Yeah, 2014.
2014. Yeah, so they've been rocking for a long time.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you for
So I
sure.
just wanna I just kind of wanted to mention that. I wanted to how do you feel as being a married man now? Like, do you feel well, I mean, you kind of cut that music out, but prior to like being when you guys were still in the dating stages, do you feel like
Mhm.
that had any type of impact on just your relationship in general?
Yeah, man. Man, you hit a lot of good points there, and I really feel like the influence because I used to be, and I do think it's the middle. It's kind of the age old discussion of is it who's ruining the kids or the who's influencing them more? Is it their environment? Is it the parents? Is it the rappers? It's like who's responsible for this? And it's I think they all have their equal part in it. But I used to kind of side on the side of the rappers. It's like the rappers are just saying they put their hands up and say, "I'm reporting what I see. I'm talking about what I go through. I'm not telling y'all to go out there and do it. I'm just." And I always understood that. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But man, when I tell you, now that I'm on this side of it, I'm like, nah, you can't take that. I can't agree with that route because I realized it's you. I think you said it. It's subconscious a lot of the times.
Mm.
Like you don't even. I didn't even realize how influenced I was by it. Just when you constantly listening to that every single day, and that's reinforcing you. Like you you start to become that, or you start to at least strive for that. Like you want to, like, dang, Future got all them girls. And he got all that money. I'm trying to have that. Oh, he got that car. I gotta have that car. And it's that becomes the bar you set for yourself. But yes, as when like because again, I've been in a relationship. I was dating my girlfriend for a long time, and then we got married. But I realized that because I think that probably saved me
Mm.
because again, I'm being in the club, I would see it all of it. I would see it all the time. And so I'm like, man, if I felt like if I would have been older and started to figure out like, oh, this is the game, this how you play the game. Oh, you just if you throw her this money, then she'll do it. Like if I would have had more time to process that, I felt like I probably would have been gone a different route because again, my environment, the culture that we are in, and that would have influenced me. I feel like in a different way. So I feel like it, like getting married and kind of just being in that long term relationship really helped me. And that's it's powerful. I think for me to say because when I tell y'all as a DJ, it would be the servers, people in the club would come up to me like, "Let me buy you a drink. Buy you a drink." Jay, you know,
Yeah, Sean.
I don't, I
Sean
don't
is a
drink.
solid man.
I don't drink. And then of course you have the women come up to you like, "Oh, can I get?" Not going. Like I'm very disciplined, and so if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. And the environments don't really um, uh, influence me, or if it's against what I want to do, then I just won't do it. So for me to realize, like, dang, no, I was being influenced by that music. I wasn't toting the strap and going out there and shooting people, but it was like kind of just subtly like I wanted that lifestyle, I wanted to achieve the same things that they achieved and have the same things they had. I want it to be like intimidating like them. Like, dang, they got like kind of some what you were talking about earlier. What are the influences or what gravitates people to that? It's like it's something about, especially to the young eye. It's like, dang, he put up with 50 dudes. Like, ain't nobody gonna mess with them. It gives you this sense of power and like elevation. Like you can't be touched. So I definitely think it's a lot to go into it. Long answer to your question, but
Nah, man,
yeah,
I love the long answers because
yeah.
shoot, man. I mean, I think, but to me, that's where the issue comes in now when you see people funding these lifestyles and these images because it's not realistic, but it has so much influence on us without us even really knowing because like we see that high point in that person so held or revered highly in society, and they're getting all the money, the cars, or what what we perceive as all of that, and it's just
Yep.
like, dang, if those are things that make you successful, then this is the way that I have to go in order to do it. But
Yep.
one thing I've always looked at artists is like you want to listen to them so you can avoid making those same mistakes, and it's like most of the time they do lead to um, demise. So it's like a lot of people still like to you know praise Tupac for some of the things that he said without kind of recognizing, and then they'll quote him on certain things that he said or certain things that he does, but it's like, okay, but you realize that afforded him a very short life, and so it's just like a lot of people don't pay attention to the warning signs. So it's like this person
That's
is,
fair.
it's almost like Young Thug is sacrificing himself to live that, he's having the fun for you. You don't have to do that again. Like he
Yeah.
showed you where that lifestyle is going to take you. It looks fun. You got to listen to his music and hear just how fun it was, and now you don't want to go down that same route. So we need to start using these artists as a blueprint as what not to do, and how to move smarter, because it's like I've learned from mistakes that Young Thug has made. I've learned from mistakes Future has made. So all of these artists are still have the ability to teach you in some capacity, but I think if you're fed too much of it without, it's like if you're not really studying the music or you're not really being conscious of what it's saying, then that's when it becomes dangerous. And so that's why I
Yeah.
feel like putting the music into the proper context, because to me it still becomes history because he's talking about the life that he lived. So if like you want to understand what was going on, like right now they're on trial. Like this is gonna be in American history forever. When you come back, listen to the music, you trying to compare it against the court documents, it's like this is all now
Yeah.
literal history. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why it's like it's always hard for me to say we can just throw out the music, or we could stop listening to the music, or but
Mm.
I think in the way that the music itself is not the dangerous part, but it has been weaponized because music to me is just an art form. So real
Let
quick,
me let me let me
okay,
chime, let me chime in real quick. So one of the things that I've found to be really interesting recently, and I applaud you brothers for quote unquote doing it the right way, because I got married really young, and unfortunately it didn't work in my case, but that was the idea. And one of the things that Dre and I have talked about is how important it is to build. And it's really difficult to build anything when you're having the kind of lifestyle that the song that Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan put out years ago. That lifestyle doesn't lead to building anything, but maybe a rap sheet or something like that. One of the things though that I've noticed recently in talking to a lot of young men, which has been surprising. It goes counter to what we would think based upon what popular rap rappers may be saying. A lot of the young men that I've talked to recently, when I would tease them about, hey man, how many ladies you got, that kind of banter, they would quickly say, nah man, it's just me and my girl. And that's a shift from just 10 years ago. Because I've been working with young people as a former classroom teacher. It's been my whole career. So I've been able to see that shift. On the other hand, the shift has gone the opposite way for young ladies. I've seen where, and it could have something to do with the culture, because ladies are players too, as the song goes, and I'm seeing that play out. So I wanted you guys to speak to that, because I know that, and I don't really have an answer for why the young men have shifted, because the lyrics haven't changed that much, or the images haven't changed that much to cause that shift on their end. But on the other hand, I've seen the shift with the ladies, and there's a lot of them are the players.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, let me speak to that because that goes to a concept that I've been looking into, and it's the androgyny in hip hop. Like, I think that at a certain point, there's like I guess a singularity point in hip hop to where the women become very masculine, and then the men become very feminine, and then it's like we get to
Mm.
that point to where it's like it doesn't really matter who's rapping it, like, and I think that's kind of where Sexy Red comes in, because it's like she's rapping over all of these hard beats in kind of a braggadocious way that a lot of men would do, and so it's jarring when we hear it, and then we have artists like Lil Nas X, who's now rapping the opposite direction, so it's like that's where we're starting to see that point, and it even when we're talking about like when Drake first started doing the rapping and singing, like that was kind of maybe the first layer of it, to where it's like, okay, women do enjoy listening to this. The bars can kind of go either way, it's just kind of talking about relationships in general. So, and I think from an industry standpoint, that just kind of makes it to where it's more marketable to everybody instead of it just being on one side. So right now, I believe the probably the biggest consumer. I wouldn't say consumer because I still feel like white men are probably the biggest consumers of hip hop, but I feel like the driving force behind what's actually popular in music is black women's um, taste in music, because that's what's getting played in the club. Like, that's kind of why you would hear Future over, like, some Lupe Fiasco or something like that, just because it's like women want to kind of hear the. I used to say, and I'm gonna curse here, but back when they said, like, at the time, women didn't really like they didn't want to hear a man call them a bitch anymore, so they kind of settle for, but they still kind of want that degradation when they listen to music, and I'm just saying this kind of more from observation, so it became more acceptable for the woman to say that, and for it to kind of still be able to get played, like, because that's more of what I noticed about just when you're thinking about the language and some of the music that female rappers come out with, it is still pretty, or it's still telling them to shake, do this, do that. It's still very commanding, and that's kind of like, Shaan is a DJ. That women kind of gravitate towards music that kind of gives them instruction. It's like, oh yeah, do this, do that. Like, I feel like that's kind of so that's just something that I kind of noticed over the years, and as I'm look like, I just think that it's very in line with just androgyny of like not having any gender. Like, things are becoming very fluid in the hip
Wow.
hop space.
What do you think, Shaan? That's pretty deep, man. What do you think? What's going on?
Yeah, yeah. No, there was definitely a woman takeover. I would say I guess my first memory of it, because it was for the longest time in hip hop, it was just like one woman who it was like we had Nikki, and then probably, and then back in like the '90s it was like Foxy, but I think Lil Kim was seen as the big the big dog in that, but it was usually like a handful or just one, and then all of a sudden they took over. I remember to the point of me consciously realizing it in the club where it was like I had to make sure that I implemented something for the dudes because it would be
Wow.
Sexy Red, Lotto, Ice, all of the hit songs, Glorilla, all of the hit songs were from women. And
Wow.
it
That's
was
what you
like
said, Dre.
it was a complete takeover. But then and when you look at what they're talking about, it's kind of like y'all spoke to, like it's the woman on top now. Like, nah, I don't need a dude for this. I got the money. I'm the breadwinner. I'm gonna do this and that. And it was, it was empowering women in, especially in the like that club setting, that just that culture. It's like, oh well, she got to do this. And then that, I think, aligned with the tricking, which is a whole nother thing. It's like it's always a the tricking aspect of like what, and you hear a lot of dudes talk down on it of like, I'm not paying this for nothing. I'm not paying her bills. I'm not paying for, but I'm like, it kind of doesn't matter when the market is set. When if dudes are willing to do that, they willing to pay for that, and that's just what it is. And so then the woman comes back and I was like, well, what do I need to settle for? Like, if he's paying my car note, he's paying my rent, he's paying for my food. And it's like, then it just turns into, now we have a culture of, now, like you said, the women are the players now. It's crazy.
We've hit in, but that's really the power of hip hop to turn everything upside down. And I feel like that might be the point where we're kind of entering into. And I think what has been, I'm trying to think, because to me it's an obvious. It was like you said, you obviously saw the shift of women being into the forefront of hip hop just in general, and it was because, but it's also because women are the driving factors, or especially black women are the driving factors of the music industry. I would say because it's like they really, I feel like black women are the real sauce of everything because it's like without their, if they just sit in a, like, if you have a song and they're not intrigued by it, the whole club is going to be dead. It don't matter
It's
what
not
you're
gonna
saying.
move it.
It don't
It's
matter
not
what
gonna
you're
move
saying. It don't matter what you're talking about. Could be giving great financial advice. You could be giving great life advice. If
it.
it's
Talk
not
about it.
onto the right, if it don't sound right and it don't make them, move in a certain way, it's not gonna go. And I
I
think,
could attest to that too. I'm sorry.
no, no,
From the club, as a DJ, we would be getting pressured from because it got to a trap had such a crazy takeover that it was, everything was super super trap, from the Migos to Thug. It was especially in Atlanta, and it got to the point where, as a whole, especially the women are like, I want to dance. That was used to be
right,
the number one thing you would hear. I'm trying to dance. I don't want to hear shoot them up, kill them up. And so then it changed the culture in the club to where they were like, yo, play something the women can sing to. Play something. The women controlled everything. That's why
Wow.
they got in free. That's why if the women were moving, just like you said, Drake, it was on lock. If they was singing, if they was dancing, we don't really care what the dudes are doing.
yeah.
We don't really care. And so yeah, that just, I thought about that when you said that was a great point.
But before we move on, I do need to address something that you said earlier, Shaan, and it's really important. And I'm addressing this from the standpoint of being a financial coach. And I'm not talking about somebody that just, talk to one or two people, hundreds of clients, right? So yes, as a woman, you might feel, and I'm talking about it on from the side of the financial coach talking to a woman who has been ran through because of this. So let me say that. So yes, you might feel like, okay, I can get this dude to pay my rent, I can get this guy to pay my car note, but when it comes time for you to actually build something and have a positive legacy, you're not going to do it that way. What you're going to do is find yourself eternally single, and then you find yourself deep into your 40s, like, yo, I'm still looking good and all this stuff. But in your 20s and 30s, you were on that paper chase. And so what we're saying is that let's figure out how to just see the music like entertainment, which is what Dre is saying. See it as entertainment, but if you are not capable of seeing it just as entertainment, then you may need to watch how much doses of it you're taking in if it's influencing you away from a lifestyle that's conducive to what you would want to represent for your children in the future. Because again, in the spur of the moment, that might seem like the thing that you want to do. Just like in the Flex video, you got all these naked women around. And so for like Sean was saying earlier, for the young man, it's like, yo. And for the young women, it may seem like, okay, this is a way to come up. But is it? Is it ultimately the way to come up? The answer is no. Diddy's proof of that. That's not the way to come up.
Oh, 100%. No, I agree. Agree. I think it's very um, short-sighted. Like with that mindset, people are looking. They're infatuated with money. How can I get as much money as I can right now? And they don't think about the long terms. Like, yes, all these women say that I made $1 million on OnlyFans in a month. I made six figures on OnlyFans, and it's like, oh, it's easy money. It's easy money. But again, the long term effects of that are like, look at how you're representing yourself, and it's like, wow, you are a digital prostitute. You are a
Wow.
porn star. You don't
Wow.
even.
I like
You're,
that term. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna let you know.
but they don't.
That's
They just
huge.
yeah, because it was when we were growing up. Like, oh, you a prostitute?
Yeah.
We don't mess with that. But now it is again because of the music. It's okay. It's accepted.
Right.
It's like,
That's right.
oh, get your money. Don't let nobody tell you what you can do with your
Right.
body. And it's like,
Mhm.
and I agree 100%.
And real
I
quick
agree.
with that, just thinking about that is that it's the same thing. It's they run into the same issue that rappers run into without gaining. You're doing this without gaining any skills. So right now, when you're young, your earning power is super high, but every day that goes by, it's dropping because of
Yep.
ages, and you're not gonna be this beautiful forever, and so it's just
Yep.
like as time goes on, your expenses get higher, your income is getting lower, and you have no skills. So it's like, or you're not if you're not developing any skills on the side. So it's
Right.
just like now you're becoming further and further away from being able to provide for yourself in the job market. Now you do have to look for somebody. I'm talking speaking for women in this particular example, and your value is continuously dropping because you've just given all of your goods away. So it's like you kind of have to see, you have to look much further than the instant payout. But that's how they get everybody in. They say, yeah, you can make $100,000 this month. You don't have the financial literacy to handle $100,000, so now you're stuck doing it again the following month. So you're like, oh, then the next month you only make 90,000, or and then the following month you make 70, and so you just see that, and you're not gaining any skills to help you manage that money, maintain it, or convert that large sum of money into a proper business.
100%. 100%, Jay.
And so we are. I mean, I think this conversation is super fire. I don't know how much we're just about at 55 minutes for this show. I mean, we could definitely keep going. I think we kind of touched on a lot of what I wanted to discuss, but we would love to have you back, Shaan, anytime, man, because this was I really do still want to talk about some other things. I don't exactly. I've been freestyling this whole time. Yeah, if y'all still got time, I just ain't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, no, I'm good on mine.
Okay, how about you, Frank? You still got some time? You still got some time, Frank?
Oh, I think you.
Okay. Okay. So, well, let's get back into kind of black women being the sauce. So I think that is even very prevalent in politics today, where black women are the driving force behind most political parties. And I think that really does come back into that whole idea that, the kind of the androgyny of hip hop is starting to seep out of hip hop and into the actual culture, to where I think women feel that they need to take the stand and spearhead a lot of the political ventures that people are going to. We don't have to get too political, but I want to talk about it in a general sense, because I'm always like, one of my sayings is that Twitter is the voice of black women, or that would be the sound of something to that. I feel like they're definitely the driving force of it. They're the thought leaders in Twitter, and they're funny. They're like, women have some of the funniest jokes on Twitter. It's really crazy. So
for sure.
And I think with that, I feel like they have a lot of power right now, and I just kind of see, as women continue to climb during this point in time, I see a lot of men starting to decline and really not keeping up at the speed at which women are advancing in their careers and just in life. Like, they say, I think more they just a recent study, more single women have homes than single men. But that's also a kind of a thing to where I feel like that's them pushing a little bit too hard and being independent, because I think another thing that it's doing is it's almost making them undateable in some aspects, because it's like, it's very hard for a man to then come in. So it's like, I feel like a lot of them do want a husband, or someone to at least spend time with, but it's like, you spend so much time getting everything for yourself. It's like, who do you want to let into to share that with? Because it's like, if you're trying to get somebody who makes more than you, or who has their own as well, then some type of compromise has to come. And it's like, and if you don't want to make any compromises, then that means that you're gonna have somebody who you're taking care of now in this time. So
yeah,
I guess how do you guys view? What do you guys? I guess it's hard for me to ask, Shaan. It's not really about the. What was you gonna say?
So let me jump in there. So, and I'll blame Shaan for bringing up the Bible. So, what I know about the times that we live in right now, women are supposed to be successful during this time. And here's the thing, I know from the conversations that you and I have had, Dre, you're all for it. And I've spent my entire career in life working with lots of women, women in charge, because in education, women dominate. If you think about your time in school, which I was a classroom teacher, most of your teachers that you find in schools are women, and many of the leaders in schools today are women. So there's no challenge with that part of it. We're cool with that. I think that the point that I want to raise and make sure that we make that I make crystal clear is that when we think about black folks in particular, and thinking and considering the things that Malcolm and King were trying to do, which they gave their life to do, a lot of it has to do with creating a better world for our children and our grandchildren. And ultimately, the way to do that has to do with us getting on the same page as men and women and figuring out how to build. How do we take our dollar and make our dollar go into multiple black households before it leaves the the black world. I'm hard pressed to use the word community because in so many senses we've gone away from that,
Mm-hmm.
from an authentic community. And so what I don't want people to do is feel like walk away from this podcast in any shape, form, or fashion, feeling like we in any way are down on the sisters. No, that's not our vibe. We're not on that at all. What we're saying is that we're seeing certain trends that we think are going in the wrong direction for our community. Brother Nuri said that in the black world, and I think I mentioned this, I might have mentioned this on a different podcast, that the divorce rate in the black world is now 75%.
Mm.
That's a big number. That's a big old number. So something's going on.
Yeah.
Somehow or another, we're not on the same page. And so for me, I want to be a part of the solution. How do we get on the same page? Even if it means let's jump start the conversation.
Mm-hmm. No, we because we had actually, I don't know if we did we ever talk about it on the actual podcast. We were talking about arranged marriages or just like how we've seen people in Indian cultures get married or arrange their marriages, and how much more of a planned out it is. Like I feel like as black people we haven't really had the full blueprint of what it is that we're looking for when we're coming to a partner. And I think a lot of what we've looked for and our girlfriends kind of came from hip hop music. Like we want her to look, we want her to be bad, we want her to, and we used to just want to. I was also, because of my dog is outside. So, and one day I walked out and I'm just like, she's just laying there, and when she sees me, she's just so happy and this then. And it dawned on me, I'm like, wow, in hip hop, we're really taught to just want a bitch, like a female dog, like someone who just lays there. When we're not around, she's just not doing nothing. But then once we're in there, that we want her to be all over us and all about us, loyal to us. Like that's what I think has been marketed to us so much. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really crazy when you think about it like that.
Yeah.
But some more statistics. Let's bring this into kind of a financial conversation. I was trying to look up because I had some notes on kind of some of the financial situations that black people have. So I do remember the numbers pretty well. It was and that the median income for a single black person is around 41,000, I believe. And then I think for the average Hispanic person was like 35,000, and for the average white person might have been 51,000, something along those lines. I'm guesstimating, but then when you talk about married households, the black household only goes up by like less than 10,000 when you get married. The Hispanic household goes up to almost double. I think it's like 65,000, and then I think you have a white couple going up to maybe almost even 100,000. I really wanted to find those notes. I should have them on me, but those statistics to me were showing a big reason probably why the black culture is a 75% divorce rate, because once they
Right
get
on the head.
together, it's like the poverty line, or the not poverty line, but lower middle class ends at or starts at 50,000. So it's like the two of you are now at the low in just terms of average black couples. Once you come together, the both of you are on the average of the lower middle income, and that's
Yeah.
before taxes. So as soon as you pay taxes, you're out of middle class.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you look at it from that perspective, black people really are not in the middle class how we thought we were, just by those statistics. If you're looking at median income, and it's like because we have there's a lot of high earners within the black community, whether it be athletes or entertainers. So that kind of skews it. But now, if you look at a majority of black America, when people are referring to the middle class, they're not referring to us. Even though I think a lot of us have that perception in our mind that that's where we've been, especially if we're not living in, what some people call a project or the ghetto. But and our reality is a lot of us are not middle class like we thought we were.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, man. I think that you kind of talked it into it. Like he brought up 75%. That's a crazy number there, and I think that is, and kind of blending in the music with it. I think we brought in financials. I think that's a big thing, because I know that's one of the things that's probably the biggest thing that's pushed and influenced from on both sides. Like the the men have, like, if you don't have money, then that's not, you're out of the picture for the women. Like I don't even want to talk to you. You don't get the time of the day, and it's like kind of how you said. I remember hearing a conversation like this on another podcast, and a guy was like, "Yeah, these women will just throw out like, if you're not making six figures, if you're not making 100,000," and the guy was like, "I don't think they realize like that's like the 1% of people. You are knocking out 99% of the pool.
Oh my god.
1% of people are making six figures like that, like the type of money it's, and it's I think that I don't know. I would be curious to see of that 75%, like what is the number one reason? Is it infidelity? Is it? But I've heard on the overall divorce rate, the number one reason has for a long time been financial. So I wouldn't be shocked, and to hear you kind of back it up with the stats is like, we, even when we get married, we still don't have no money. And then you go to that, to the men, kind of, I hear a lot of men talk about what is the benefits of marriage, like what am I getting out of it, especially if I'm in that lifestyle. what, like, now I just feel restricted. And like you said, like, I what if we don't have, if I don't get richer off of doing this, if I now can't have any woman I want once we do this, if I can't do any of the things I really want to do, why am I getting married? So then you got to feel like you get people who still do it, and then eventually it probably falls apart because it's, there's no foundation here.
So ultimately, often you will hear that the cause is finances. However, the big, the number one cause is actually poor communication. In other words,
I wonder, is that document, is that not, because I believe that 100%, is that a documentable cause for divorce? Can you put, like, or does that go under irreconcilable differences or something like that?
so this is what I found from my experience. So first of all, one of the things that you said that you and your wife did was that you had premarital counseling. Now, for most people, they will have that kind of counseling with a priest or a reverend or something like that. Now, of course, I recommend as a financial coach that you take that people take an additional step to actually sit down with a financial counselor, because if Dre has built his credit score to 800 and he has no debt, then it would make sense for him to know where his partner stands, because once they do this, her debt becomes his. And so so right now I'm explaining why the fallout happens over finances. The fallout happened over finances because there was a lack of communication.
Communication.
There see, like you said, like you both said in different ways. Usually we come together because she's bad, you know,
Hmm.
and then you get the opportunity to hit it and like, yo, I got to keep hitting this forever.
Hmm.
But then there's other things to be discussed. what After the bed, what else? And so that's why during the lock-ins, a lot of marriages got in trouble, because now this person that you walk down the aisle with, now you got to really spend time with them for real, because like Dre said, the culture says, okay, when I get back, she'll be here. I hit it. I go to work, and deal with my work wife, and then all that stuff. But a lot of times, these two people are not really communicating with each other. And if you're doing a little experiment, you go to a restaurant. You go to the average restaurant, you see a couple. He's doing this, and
For
she's
sure.
doing the same.
100%.
So even in this situation where they're supposed to be out with each other,
Hmm.
they're out with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Social media is a whole different world, and it adds a. I feel like that adds a whole nother layer of complexity to
Absolutely.
dating in general. Um, Real quick, I wrote something down because that Shaan had said, um, but it was actually off of the last Future project. He said, "If I love you, I might fall off." That was like one of his bars, and I was like, for someone like him who whose career is gonna built off of him being a toxic king. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, that any type of success, like, yeah, if he were to go the Jay-Z way, or back when he was with Sierra, if that was really the path that he chose, he
Yeah.
probably wouldn't be who he is now. And it's like, because he has to represent that person who can never, be tied down. And, it's like, to me, he's still talking about a lot of his pains and him being lonely. Like, if you're listening to the music, it doesn't sound happy. It's like, you look at the lifestyle and like, oh, that's the lifestyle I want to live. But if you're hearing what he's talking about, it's like that's not. He's not making it sound fun. Honestly, it sounds very lonely. And I think a lot of people do just like to relate to the pain that he's feeling, or I think they think if they're sharing the same pain that they can then have that same success to to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And Dre, before we even think about wrapping up, because I appreciate you, wanting to respect our guest time, but I can't let us get away without talking about this because this is a very important factor when we talk about relationships that go awry. Now, I don't know if we really drilled down on this in the last episode, although you did talk about it in terms of Rich Homie Quan and his demise, and that's the drugs. And I know you saw your fair share of it as a DJ being in clubs and how much drugs play into what is and isn't happening in the culture.
Hmm.
Um, and so, for a lot of people who are fortunate to make a lot of cash, it goes due to the drugs.
Hmm.
And let's add one more thing that we're going to have a whole show on, Dre, and that's the gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Because gambling is a big thing now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's out here.
So when you add those two things, just trying to keep up with the lifestyle in terms of the clothes, the whip, when you add the drugs and the gambling, the money, the cash is gone.
Yeah,
It's gone.
yeah, 100%.
That's like that's that's like multiplying your money by zero when you think of it that way. It's like
Yeah.
it's just the all because I see it all the time, and I'm seeing it get worse honestly. With gambling, but and it's gradually getting worse, but it's getting much worse from my observation. It's to the point where people would be down to their last $5 and them because they a lot of people look at gambling as a skill, so
Yes.
they trust their intuition so much that they feel like I can't go wrong here, or they feel like if they get their back against the wall that they're gonna make a crazy parlay or something, and then
Hmm.
just you know get themselves out of a crazy situation, and it'll be a great story, but it's just like realistically, then they not even factor in all the money that they lost up until that point, because it's like
That's
every
right.
time they see a win, they just like, up, I'm up now. But it's
Oh
like you
no.
just spent you spent $1,000 and you just hit your first $500. So it's just like,
That is the drug. That's the gambling is the part of the drug. That's
Right.
another drug. It's a people get really addicted to it. Like that high is it's crazy. It's crazy.
this gambling bug and the game. It's really, since it's through your phone now, that it's become so like ten
Yeah.
times more addictive. It's like people
Yeah.
are constantly checking it. People are constantly, just trying to put a little quick $5 in. You never
Yeah.
know, and then they be like, "Oh, but I put a limit on it. How much I put." Actually, I was talking to two of my friends. One of them, he did he does do the little what's it called,
FanDuel,
fan, yeah,
DraftKings.
yeah, one of them
Hmm.
prize picks,
Oh, Prize
whatever.
Picks.
Yeah,
Prize
he
Picks
does
for
one
sure.
of those, and he's like, oh yeah, put. And he was talking to his girlfriend, and then she was talking about she does things on Afterpay and Klarna. I'm like, both of those are like that.
Yeah.
Afterpay is to
Yeah.
women what prize picks is to men. I had to
Wow.
say that because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they
For sure.
completely, and then they add, you gotta add in, I'm sorry women, I gotta talk about the girl math. The girl math be killing
That is so funny.
a
That's so
lot of
funny.
y'all. And I know enough. I know enough women to know that girl math is.
Girl math.
Most of y'all follow follow that, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of a where if they not spending it on their main credit card, or they find a way to get a discount, that they in their mind they didn't really spend money. And
hmm hmm
that really only works when you don't have a budget. I tell everyone, I'm like, you need a budget. You need to write your things down,
Yeah.
because uh, Afterpay and Klarna, it's called phantom debt. So it's like
hmm
it doesn't show up on your credit report. So a
hmm
lot of people will lean on that and have a whole bunch of that stuff in collections because they're like, oh well, it was just Afterpay. They feel like they got the piece of clothing, or whatever they paid with on Afterpay, but it's like you don't even really own this clothing, and now it has you, that little small top is now has you in debt and is now affected your credit score. So it's just like people
Facts.
are not looking at the bigger picture, and that goes to them trying to keep up with each other by, it's like, oh well, I can have this and wear it to this part. It's like, but now you're
hmm
diminishing the, it's like it's still a $500 top and you're only gonna wear it once just because you only had to pay $25 for it for the
hmm
you know now you thinking that you saved all this money, but in reality you set
It's gonna
yourself up
come
for
back.
a huge financial burden in the future.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Facts. I think that's a big point. You touched on it, Jay. Like with these people, and this is just the back to the higher level, like artists, the rappers, celebrities, whatever it is. It's like, man, you have this window of time to like make a man. You know, one thing I think they said Jay-Z said this. I think Jay-Z said you're only white hot, like in your career one time. Like you only get that. Like you remember Dre when the Migos had Bad and Bougie
Oh
out,
yeah.
and it was, and you look back,
It was
that
crazy.
was the biggest, like, oh my gosh, it was probably the biggest they were since like when they came up. I remember telling people when I was DJing, I could do like this and click a Migos song, and the party was gonna go crazy. It didn't matter what it was, but you get this moment in time where you are the biggest you'll ever be. You're making so much money, and like you said, you start getting into that gambling addiction, and that money isn't coming in the same rate it was when you was
Right.
just throwing it like this. And it's like that's where a lot of people get in trouble because it's you have this sort of income and you're spending it because it's coming right back. But what happens when that slows down, that faucet isn't isn't filling as quickly, it's like now you're in trouble, and then that's a whole nother financial conversation. How these people make all this money and then go broke? Because it's not like you're making millions and millions and driving the Honda or the like
That
you
lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
the lifestyle. That's exactly what it is. And keeping up face.
We got so much issues. The last thing I do want to talk about, because I mean we've kind of been alluding to it, but it's also about just the income of men trying to now keep up with this lifestyle.
Keep up
So
with it.
we are mathematically, it is impossible. I'm telling you right now, ladies, what you have in what you have in your mind, a man should pay for at this current time with the way wages are going. You're not getting that, and you're not getting that responsibly. any person who is spend, any person who is spending their time doing earning this money is not trying to then pay for his girlfriend for her to then kind of market herself to other guys at that point, because they want you to pay for their hair, nails, and it's like you're talking to somebody who's not even who's barely surviving themselves, and now you want them to take that money, that and they're just, the only reason they're spending it on you in the first place is because they don't even understand their finances. So it's like if you
hmm
run into somebody who's paying like that, that's a red flag. Because it's
Yeah.
like there's other things that you should be responsible for paying right now, and if you can afford this, and especially if they're doing for multiple women, then you know that their finances or their morals, something is not in line with what is
Yeah.
standard in today's time. So it's like we have to
Yeah.
be so much more realistic with what people are asking for, because you calling everybody broke. All of these men are, everyone is broke.
Everybody's broke.
Everybody out here has something else that they more important that they need to be paying for.
Yeah.
And so it's just like if we continue to have these ideas that somebody is not worth your time because they can't afford to take you if they take you out every weekend, they can't afford that. I used to think that I could afford to go. Oh, we can afford to go out once a week. No, no, you can't. You didn't
Starts
do the
taxing.
budget. You didn't do the budget right. Because if you knew where all your money was supposed to go, you would not have $100 to spend every weekend for one meal. For one meal, it's like that needs to go to groceries, and you know that's something I didn't realize until my later 20s. I'm thinking, oh yeah, $100 here, that's nothing, but that adds up over time. So
Yeah.
that was really the last thing that I kind of just wanted to touch on, like and also to encourage a lot of men, like you still have to, even if it's not for a woman, you still have to get out here and provide for yourself. It's like we have to start picking up skills. We have to start getting positions that pay us an adequate amount in order for us to take care of ourselves. Like nobody's coming to save us at all. So
Yeah.
you have to, do the necessary steps, and sometimes that does take going and getting some certificates, getting some extra education, but you have to make yourself competitive in this job market that's continuing to crash. So,
Sure.
so
Good stuff, Dre. Good stuff. And a lot of, I have to say this, a lot of women get trapped by homosexuals. These are guys who, and that's a real thing. These are
Yeah.
guys who they will present like they've got a lot of money. And so they may take you to Ruth Chris. They may drop $300-500 on a couple of dates. And now you moved him into that house that you were talking about earlier, Dre. And now that's it. You're done. Because his whole goal was to get into your house. And you will have hell to get rid of him in your house. Because all he was good for was those first couple of dates. And that's all he got. He ain't got nothing else. You're
Yep.
done.
right there, because you see, and that's exactly what I was just saying. If he was able to spend $500 on a dinner, that means that he's not paying rent somewhere. So it's like, and now
Yeah.
he just paid $500 to have some place to live now.
Yeah. That's what it was
That's
for.
the play. That's the
I
finesse.
That's
didn't
what it
even
was for.
realize. I didn't realize that.
That's the
That's a fact.
that is the finesse right there, ladies.
It's
So
crazy.
it's
We
like,
That
trying to
it.
put you up on game. We trying to help you. We trying to help you.
Yeah. Jay, you touched on it that we call it the Atlanta money glitch too, where somebody we don't know what they do, they just got all this money and they don't never post their job. It's just they just got a bunch of money. Know what time it is. You're
And
not getting that in a responsible way.
not
yeah,
responsible at all. That's I'm telling you, we need to pick up and have this conversation again, because
For sure.
there's really a lot of things that we start, especially towards the end, that we started talking about, just in terms of the gender wars, and I think it's really relevant in our black community right now, just where I think everyone's mind is at because of hip hop. Like hip hop has brought us to this place where, or how it's been used. I'm not gonna say hip hop necessarily, but how it's
Right.
been used and weaponized against us has now put us into this hallucination, like of culture, thinking that we can, that we're doing so much better. Like everybody striving to be that 1% without really even putting in the work. So it's just like,
And the fact that it was so powerful in y'all last episode when y'all played the Rich Homie Quan clips, and it's like, oh, and even what you said, FOW, like the people we looking up to and want to be, like, I want to be gangster like him. He's not gangster. I want to be rich like him. He's not actually rich.
Right.
It's all a facade. The industry is just pushing out an image for y'all
That's
to
right.
consume. It's not real.
That's
None
right.
of these rappers are actually rich. It's literally 2% of them.
That's right. Only a small percentage of them. It's the record. It's Clive Davis. He's rich.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
that was okay. I know I've been saying it, but that was the last thing I wanted to say. We need to focus on different positions. There's more than being a rapper. There's more than being a producer. It's like we need to get into some more of these executive positions. We
Yep.
need to, we need some just new career models, or I guess it would be on the mainstream media to kind of promote some other, like a job like an economist or something. I don't even know how much they make, but I mean that's something that I thought as I'm getting older, something that if I'm shifting careers from software development, it would be like, yeah, I'd like to learn or talk about the economy in a creative way or something like that. So I want more people to have just not think that you have to just be either a rapper or an entrepreneur, because not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, especially if you're not a good employee. If you're not a good employee, you probably won't make a good entrepreneur, because you don't know your personal role. So how are you gonna run a whole business? So
True.
yeah, I think
True.
we'll end it there because we're right around one hour and 30 minutes. Man, this was a
This was great.
phenomenal episode, man. Like, this was super fire. Definitely, like, Shaan, you gotta come back. Let me know your schedule
Call me, brother.
whenever you want to, and when you
Happy
start
to.
your I know you're starting a podcast soon. I'm talking about sports. So,
Oh yeah, my little sports. Yeah. Facts.
you can
Facts.
plug
Yeah,
that
man.
in right now, or do you have like a date yet, or are you still just planning
Yeah,
on
no,
doing
we
it?
started. I think I've done three or four
Okay,
so
okay.
far. But yeah, Stupid Fans podcast is just all sports, just like this. We're just talking about sports, man,
Dope,
on a
dope,
little
dope.
side
That's
thing.
awesome, man.
No, I appreciate that. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave the send me the link and I'll put it in the description so people can check that out. So
Got you. Appreciate that.
okay, so all right, you guys got a great show today. Like, phenomenal. I really don't want to stop this conversation. We just gotta
100%.
let everybody go their own ways. Um, Thank you, Shaan, for joining us. Thank you, FLW, once
Thank you,
again.
man.
Man, this was a great episode. People, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. We do this for you, and we're gonna continue to just give you this content that we hope you can, if you find valuable and are able to apply to your lives. Um, Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.